The city was steel and silence, high towers of glass that glowed like distant stars through the smog. People didn't walk here anymore. They were moved, on conveyor belts, in autonomous cars, between checkpoints manned by cold-faced drones. And among them moved trainer number 114, indistinct in his grey uniform, indistinct in his expression, indistinct in everything except the number printed across his collar. He had no name, only a designation. They all did. 114 was grown in the breeding vats under League Tower. His growth accelerated, memory sequences implanted, muscle memory for battle, scripted responses for interviewers, pre-approved emotional range. He was a champion model, meant for high-tier circuits, the kind that fought in stadiums where the audience was virtual and the stakes were blood. But something was wrong with him. He didn't want to fight. The League psychologist said he was defective. They downgraded him to C-class, used for promotional circuits, then lower still, rented out to corporations for pre-scripted battles. But he kept refusing moves, standing still while his Pokémon were attacked, letting others win. Eventually they sent a decommission order. 114 ran. He lived in the ducts now, in the ruins beneath Saffron City, where light from the surface barely touched and the old power grids crackled like whispers in the dark. He had a companion. A battered Jolteon named Trace, one of the few Pokémon that hadn't been stripped from him when he escaped. Trace didn't battle anymore. He didn't need to. His fur bristled constantly, a live wire. No one came near them for long. But something drew them to the surface. The dream had started 2 weeks ago, a flicker in the night, a voice whispering from the static of old Pokédex logs. "Come find me." A name flashed across his mind. Red. The system denied any record. No such trainer existed, they said. No champion ever by that name. But the dream persisted. And then, one night, Trace stood bolt upright, growling at nothing, and 114 followed the sound of a forgotten voice to an abandoned Pokémon Center just outside of Cerulean Zone. It was there he found it. A corrupted Porygon Z, its body fractured into shifting polygons, twitching and glitching with raw, unstable data. It didn't attack. It spoke. Not in words. In memories. Battles under the open sky, friends, a Pikachu on a shoulder, a mountain summit, a battle against a god. All of it flooded into 114's mind like a fever. And then, silence. Trace howled. The Porygon convulsed. From its disintegrating code emerged a file, R3D76. It was a memory backup. A trainer's mind, partially digitized, fractured but alive. The system had tried to erase him, wiped all records, deleted his name, purged his victories, but part of him remained. And now he lived inside a ghost of data, flickering in the remains of a digital Pokémon. "You're not broken," the voice whispered from the file, in a tone that felt like wind over grass. "You're remembering." 114 clutched his head as fragments of his past unraveled. He hadn't just been grown, he had been someone. A template. A clone of a legend whose name was forbidden. The League hadn't just erased history, they had harvested it, creating perfect trainers from the corpses of the ones they buried in memory. Red, his blood was Red's, his hands Red's. Even Trace had been part of the mimicry, bred from Red's old Jolteon, with implanted obedience. But something had failed. The soul copy wasn't entirely gone. The memory had survived, and it had infected him. Now it was waking up. The League would come. They always did. They tracked unauthorized soul copies like viruses. They'd already noticed the Porygon spike. He had maybe hours, days if he stayed underground. But something in him had shifted. A tremor in the old code, a memory of what it felt like to be free, not just grown. He uploaded the file into Trace's collar chip, encrypted it, and ran. He headed for Mount Silver. The mountain had been off-limits for years, designated unstable terrain by the League. Surveillance drones would explode at the perimeter. No fly zones, no climb zones. People said the mountain itself rejected technology. It was Red's last known location, according to the legends, before the world went digital, before soul copies, before cloning, before the League turned champions into products. He climbed for 2 days without food. Trace limped beside him, his coat smoking from a drone encounter. The file in his chip began to speak more often. Broken phrases, fragmented memories. "The wind up here smells like snow." "There used to be a campfire there, just there. Don't look back." At the summit, the world was quiet. There was no shrine, no grave, just a single Pokeball sitting on a stone, covered in frost. 114 approached it. Trace whimpered. Inside the ball was a Pokémon he had never seen, data unreadable. The ball hummed in his hand. And then the League came. They didn't send soldiers. They sent other trainers, more like him. Numbers for names. Hollow eyes, one by one, they stepped forward, hands to belts. 6 against 1, 114 closed his eyes. He didn't give a command, he didn't have to. Trace moved first. The battle wasn't glorious, it wasn't fair, it was blood and lightning and silence. The cloned trainers went down like dominoes, their Pokémon not dead, but disabled, confused. One ran, one wept. When it was over, 114 stood in the snow, blood dripping from his lip, the Pokeball still in his hand. He pressed the button. The Pokémon inside emerged. It wasn't legendary, it wasn't powerful. It was a Pikachu, old, scarred, missing a chunk of ear. Its eyes were dull until they met Trace's. Something passed between them, something ancient and wordless. Pikachu climbed onto 114's shoulder, and the soul copy spoke one last time. Home. He descended the mountain with the wind at his back, the snow melting where he stepped. He didn't need a number anymore. He didn't need the League. He remembered who he was, and he was free.